The King's Avatar, Chapter 1395. There's Still a Gap. Audio source WurshaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1395. There's Still a Gap. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Bang. Flowing Cloud's silver weapon, the great sword Flame Shadow, clash against the myriad manifestations umbrella with a dull sound. Meteor form. The fastest of the powerful level 75 skills was as quick as lightning, even when used by Flowing Cloud, who had a slow attack speed. Still, Lord Grim managed to parry the attack. Oh, what a shame. If Flowing Cloud were using a Tachi or a lightsaber instead of a greatsword, that attack definitely would have hit. Li Yibo sighed. But to his surprise, after this attack, although Lord Grim managed to parry it with his umbrella, his body was still pushed backward. The myriad manifestations umbrella was actually jolted to the side. Li Yibo was shocked. Even though Meteor Form was a level 75 skill, this skill prioritized speed and involved the blade moving light and fast. In terms of attack priority, it wasn't very strong. Lord Grim might not have high-level skills, but he should have still been able to parry it. But Lord Grim's movement right now made it look like he hadn't been able to withstand the impact of this attack at all. Purposefully faking an opening. Just as this thought flashed through Li Yibo's mind, he saw Flowing Cloud unleash another headwind strike. The sword tip swung in a circle, and Lord Grim's chest spurted blood. Beautiful. Pan Lin was already shouting. Lu Hanwen finally broke through Yi Xiu's crazy attacks and successfully counterattacked within the span of one move. Sword attacks came out one after another, whistling through the air. Li Yibo watched a few attacks, and suddenly reached a realization. Even though Flowing Cloud doesn't have a high attack speed, the greatsword gives his skills greater impact. That meteor form, just now. If he'd been using a Tachi or a lightsaber, then Lord Grim might have been able to parry it. But because it's a greatsword, his skill priority wasn't high enough, so it was directly knocked aside, said Li Yibo. This is a very good opportunity. Hopefully Lu Hanwen can take advantage of it, Pan Lin shouted. In an instant, the attacker and defender had switched roles. But Flowing Cloud's combo had only reached the sixth attack, an upward slash, when Lord Grim jumped into the air. He took the upward slash and flew even higher, then raised the myriad manifestations umbrella over his head. Pa pa pa, the umbrella folded and lengthened, the flaps beginning to hum and spin. Instantly, Lord Grim was pulled to the side. Rising Dragon Slash. Lu Hanwen hurriedly controlled Flowing Cloud to use an attack that would hit Lord Grim in the air, but he was too slow. The sword light flashed right by Lord Grim's body. But Lu Hanwen barely had time to feel regret when the humming noise from Lord Grim's umbrella suddenly stopped, and Lord Grim was already extending his right leg. Eagle Stamp. Bam 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 bam. 4 consecutive kicks mercilessly fell upon Flowing Cloud's body, and the priority of his Rising Dragon Slash had long since expired. He'd originally wanted to use a falling light blade to get away, but he was still too slow, and Lord Grim stamped down upon him. Shing! Lord Grim pulled out the Tachi from his myriad manifestations umbrella, falling light blade. Lu Hanwen hadn't been fast enough to use it, but Yi Xiu now very leisurely used it. The tip of the sword pressed against Flowing Cloud's throat, and they continued to fall. The entire audience was stunned. This reaction, this combo. Lu Hanwen had only just broken through and begun a counter-attack. The happy fans live at the stadium hadn't even had time to begin worrying about Yi Xiu when this guy recovered the situation. In comparison, Blue Rain's players only made their fans worry more. Bang! Because of the falling light blade, Flowing Cloud was stuck and couldn't escape. Just like that, he was crushed against the ground, sending up a cloud of dust. Punisher, Earthquake Sword, Lord Grim used another flurry of ground attacks against the already fallen Flowing Cloud. Lu Hanwen was once again at the disadvantage. Or, Hanwen didn't grasp it well. Huang Shaoshan sighed. He was also a Blade Master player, so he had quite a right to speak about the judgments made in that moment. He felt that that opportunity had been created extremely well, and if it had been him, there was no way he would let the opponent get away after only 6 attacks in a combo. His attack was a bit slow. Yu Wenzu said. The equipment would have a bit of effect on that, but the great swords should have been enough to deal with that situation. Hanwen didn't have good control, the timing wasn't accurate enough, said Huang Shaoshan. Or you could say, Ye Zhu's timing was simply too accurate, said Yu Wenzu. Huang Shaoshan paused and realized, indeed, that was the case. The attack rhythm of the unspecialized Lord Grim was extremely rapid, and Ye Zhu's controls were still so accurate. Lu Hanwen's Flowing Cloud was a great sword blade master. It was hard enough for slow to keep up with fast rhythm, and because the opponent was Ye Zhu, the difficulty was only greater. Find another opportunity, kid. Don't give that guy another chance to show off. Huang Shaoshan said, grinding his teeth. Ah, too bad. Lu Hanwen had only managed 6 attacks before Ye Zhu took back the initiative, so of course he was disappointed. He was positive, he was optimistic, that he wouldn't forget scars instantly. As a pro player, he couldn't afford to forget scars so easily, because every scar was a lesson, something that led to growth. Lu Hanwen's personality didn't help him forget scars. It allowed him to actively face his scars, never fleeing. Maybe I could have done this or that instead, and it would have turned out better. Lu Hanwen, just like this, grew up through these ifs and maybes. Quote, from mistakes and failures, he accumulated experience non-stop. But this kind of growth didn't happen overnight. Making a mistake once didn't guarantee that it could immediately be avoided next time. After all, with Lu Hanwen's current skill level, the mistakes he made wouldn't be those particularly obvious kinds of mistakes. Sometimes, it would be a problem of small, inadvertent habits, and it would require a lot of time to pick them out and fix them. Over these 2 years, Lu Hanwen's growth had been clear to see. He had grown so much since he entered the alliance, but the opponent in front of him now. Lu Hanwen sighed deeply. By the time he'd entered the alliance, this god in front of him had already become a legend. He never would have thought that he'd have the chance to meet him in-game. That summer, Lu Hanwen had followed Blue Brook Guild to train in-game, and that summer he had accumulated numerous painful failures. An extremely difficult opponent, possibly even more difficult than Senior Shaoshan. At that time, Lu Hanwen had already felt it, and that had only been in-game, where the two of them hadn't had too many face-to-face exchanges. At first, he'd only heard from Blue River, the guild worker bringing him along, about how this person stirred up storms and reaped the profits. Afterwards, the exchanges in-game had only verified Blue River's words. Lu Hanwen clearly remembered how even he, someone who had clearly come to support Blue Brook Guild and fight Lord Grim, had ultimately become that guy's helper in the process of stealing the boss. He's too good. Lu Hanwen could only think this. In terms of skill and technique, he could still work hard to improve, but those things like strategic layout and maneuvering. It was like their captain Yu Wenzu. Lu Hanwen could view Huang Shaoshan as the goal he was chasing after, even the target that he wanted to surpass, but Captain Yu Wenzu, forget it. How could he ever match that kind of guy? Lu Hanwen never believed that he had that kind of mind. WuxiaWorldAudio.com Their in-game struggles allowed Lu Hanwen to learn Yishu's skill in this area, and this alone was already breathtaking. And then Happy entered the alliance. This legendary god returned to the professional stage, and then 37 consecutive individual wins. How could this kind of person be beaten? Whether in terms of strategy or technique, he still just couldn't compare. Compared to Yishu, Lu Hanwen could only draw this sad conclusion. He was brave, he was fearless, but he could recognize skill. Yet even when recognizing this huge gap between himself and Yishu, he could still battle courageously. There's still a gap. Lu Hanwen was very clear on this point. As for whether or not he could close this gap, Lu Hanwen didn't think about it too hard. Victory wasn't simply determined by such a gap. Lu Hanwen, as well as most of those who were raised in Blue Rain, held this belief in his heart: a gap isn't scary. A gap doesn't determine everything. Because they had a captain called Yuan Zhu. Because their captain had a weakness that was fatal for most pro players. But Yuan Zhu frequently used his situation to tell Blue Rain's team members and Blue Rain's trainees who dreamed of becoming pro players, a gap isn't scary. What's scary is giving up because of a gap. Even someone like me hasn't given up. What reason do you have? Even now, Lu Hanwen still remembered the words that Yuan Zhu had once said to the trainees at training camp. Although he was very young, he could understand this relatively straightforward point. And Yuan Zhu's experience of walking through Blue Rain's training camp was even more of a real, living motivation for all of them. In the training camp, they wouldn't give up on their dreams. On the battlefield, they wouldn't give up on victory. They saw the gap, but they wouldn't shrink from the gap. Continue on like this. Facing a gap, Lu Hanwen doubled down on his determination. Win or lose, he wouldn't think about the outcome too much. He just knew that he had to put his full effort in to do everything he could. These efforts weren't meaningless, because this was the group arena. This was a team project. Whatever health and mana of Lord Grimm's that he could deplete, the next Blue Rain player would feel the benefits. This would become the basis of their victory. So, fight hard. Lu Hanwen really has a great attitude. Even though Yishu has completely suppressed him, he isn't retreating or getting discouraged at all. Li Yibo praised. He definitely has a bright future ahead of him, Pan Lin said, moved. Although the two praised him freely, the fact that they were talking about his future made it clear that right now, they didn't think Lu Hanwen would win. 44%. When Lu Hanwen's flowing cloud fell, this was how much health Lord Grimm had left. Blue Rain had already sent up 2 players, but they had only knocked away a little more than half of Yishu's health. Happy is already in a 2-point lead. Pan Lin announced 1v2, and in the playoffs. Yishu really deserves the title of King of Dueling this season. Just this kind of performance should be enough to silence the doubts that he only won so many consecutive victories because he hadn't met strong opponents. Yishu had the ability to achieve victory at lesser cost to himself, but he didn't need to do so in individual battles, said Li Yibo. But if he wants to 1v3 right now, it looks like it'll be a bit difficult. Lord Grimm lost a lot more mana than health, said Pan Lin. There's still 11%, said Li Yibo, after checking. This time, at least, he shouldn't be carrying mana-boosting equipment, right? Pan Lin still clearly remembered the events of last year's Challenger League. End chapter.
The King's Avatar. Chapter 1396. The Talkative Rhythm. Audio source: WuXiaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1396. The Talkative Rhythm. Translator: Gnome Yummy. Editor: Gnome Yummy. Getting a useful amount of mana recovery wasn't something that could be accomplished with just 1 or 2 pieces of equipment. With the current stats of equipment, as limited by the maximum equipment level, a set of many pieces of equipment was needed. Lord Grimm right now had many pieces of level 80 silver equipment, whose stats weren't visible, but for stats like mana or health recovery that had a visible effect over time, it could be directly seen whether or not they were present. On Lord Grimm's body now, there didn't seem to be any such equipment, and carrying an extra set of equipment into a match was something that hadn't been done for a long time. A set of equipment increased weight, which became a large burden on this high-level professional stage, especially since this was now the highest-level playoffs competition. But Li Yibo didn't dare use common principles to draw conclusions. Yishu leading team happy to return to the professional scene. This was already so far out of everyone's expectations. Anything contrary to common expectations was possible. Perhaps the weight added by this set of equipment could be erased somehow by Yishu's unspecialized Lord Grimm? Li Yibo didn't say anything. Everyone was waiting to see. Lu Hanwen came off stage and returned to Blue Rain's player area. In the first battle, Song Xiao had knocked away 30% of Lord Grimm's health. In the second battle, based on his on-stage performance, it had seemed that Lu Hanwen was doing better, but in the end he had only taken down 26% of Lord Grimm's health, which was a little inferior to Song Xiao's performance. From this it could be seen that the scene on stage and the actual numbers were two different things. It had looked like Song Xiao was taking a beating throughout the entire match, and he had ultimately fallen in a one-wave rush. But during this process, he had relied on his tenacious defense to wear away Yishu by a significant amount. On the other hand, Lu Hanwen's aggressiveness was more apparent, and he'd actually found an opportunity to successfully counterattack, but ultimately, he hadn't worn down Yishu as much as Song Xiao had. However, Blue Rain's players didn't fuss over this point. "You played well," said Captain Yu Wenzhou. Lu Hanwen nodded, taking this simple sentence to heart. He knew that their captain never threw around these polite words just to comfort his teammates. Whether success or failure, victory or defeat, he would always be gentle and sincere. He wouldn't criticize harshly, nor would he protect them excessively. So, even though he hadn't won, his performance was correct, was worthy of recognition. When he thought about this, Lu Hanwen's courage was suddenly refilled, and he almost felt like charging back to play another match against Yishu. Of course this was impossible. All Lu Hanwen could do was turn toward Blue Rain's third player, who was already walking on stage, and holler, "Go Huangshao!" Huang Shaoshan heard it, but he didn't turn around. He simply waved his right hand, his index and middle fingers raised in the shape of V for victory. "Ah, Team Blue Rain is already sending out Huang Shaoshan as their third player," Pan Lin said. In the 5-player group arena of the playoffs, simply winning the final victory wasn't enough. The key was to win more points by having more players left standing. So up until now, a common strategy was to place the ace player in the third or fourth spot, because if a victory was achieved then, that would guarantee 2 or 3 points. If, on the other hand, the ace player was fifth, then even if they won the final victory, they would only have 1 point. 1 point had much too small of an impact on the team round. The team competition was rarely fought until only one player remained. But the current situation can be seen as fairly unfavorable toward Blue Rain, said Li Yibo. The fact that he spoke so carefully, even though Happy was so far in the lead after completing a 1v2, only showed how cautious he was now. Yishu's Lord Grimm still had 44% health but only 11% mana remaining. This little mana definitely wasn't enough to kill an opponent like Huang Shaoshan, so what would Yishu do? Did he bring equipment, or would he use Wish Prayer? But even if he did have Wish Prayer, it would only be at level 1. With Lord Grimm's intelligence stat, he would probably only be able to recover around 10%. 21% mana. This still might not be enough to deal with Huang Shaoshan, would it? Still, Yishu had already knocked down 2 opponents. At this point, everyone was already quite satisfied with his performance. For this round, any amount of Huang Shaoxin's health that he managed to knock away would be considered a victory. Huang Shaoxin came on stage and entered the player booth. His character loaded in, and very soon, the third battle of the group arena began. "I'm surprised you're up so soon. Fighting me? The pressure's pretty high, huh?" The moment the match began, Yishu began to talk in the channel. The audience members watched as Lord Grimm lifted his myriad manifestations umbrella, surrounding himself with glowing blue light and chaotically flying chanted runes. Indeed, he was using wish prayer. But ultimately, the mana recovering equipment didn't make an appearance. It appeared that in the rhythm of a playoffs match, even Yishu couldn't carry such a burden. "I don't have much mana left. It should be easy for you to pick up this wallet." Yishu continued to speak. "How come you're not talking? Since I saw it was you, I made extra sure to talk a bit more. What's wrong with you? Did you get muted? Or are you so scared that you're all choked up?" Yishu was still talking. But Yishu was already on his third message sent, which everyone found strange. What was going on? Huang Shaoxin wasn't saying anything, while Yishu was blathering on. Had these two switched bodies or something? Holy FCK, you're so annoying. Just as everyone was growing confused, Huang Shaoxin finally exploded. "Who wants to talk to you? We're enemies right now. Enemies. Understand? You were so arrogant just now, defeating two of our people. Right now, are you getting mana recovery equipment or doing some wish prayer or whatever? Whatever dirty tricks you have, bring it." In an instant, Huang Shaoxin had already sent 3 messages in reply. Indeed, his rhythm here had surpassed Yishu's. "Oh, that's more like it. If you don't yell a few sentences, the whole atmosphere feels wrong," said Yishu. "Screw your atmosphere. Even if you want to do anything, you don't have much mana left, so stop wasting time and hurry up and come out and die. Be patient. As you wish. I'm recovering mana," Yishu said. "As expected, dirty and shameless," said Huang Shaoxin. "You're just jealous," Yishu replied. The cast time for wish prayer was long, as was the skill's duration, so Yishu activated the skill at the very beginning. Huang Shaoxin had essentially guessed that Yishu would do this, so as soon as the match began, he had Troubling Rain fearlessly charge forward. WuxiaWorldAudio.com. Even as the two people were playing seriously, they were also chatting away in the channel. The audience didn't know what to think. This was the high-stakes playoffs. In the 2 previous battles, who was in the mood for chatting? As expected of the super god Yishu, what a calm attitude for him to be able to chat with Huang Shaoxin like this. As everyone quietly reflected, those two were still going at it. Even though wish prayer was slow, it was still faster than Troubling Rain making his way toward Lord Grimm. Happy hadn't chosen a small map for this group arena, perhaps for this reason exactly. Finally, wish prayer was complete, and Lord Grimm recovered 11% mana, putting him at 22%. With this 1/5 mana, Yishu could probably casually wipe out 2 or 3 ordinary players. But against a pro player, then the outcome would depend. Huang Shaoxin was a strong player, so almost no one had any hopes for Yishu. Happy's supporters just hoped that he could chip away as much of Troubling Rain's health as he could. When Yishu defeated Blue Rain's first player Song Xiao, someone had actually shouted for a 1v5, but right now, there weren't even people yelling for 1v3. A yell for a 1v5 was immediately obvious as a joke, so no one would pay much attention upon hearing it. But to shout for a 1v3 right now? In theory, 22% mana was enough to defeat a character. But the opponent was Huang Shaoxin. Shouting for a 1v3 now would just seem ignorant. The passionate fans now suddenly became very rational, and they didn't pull out unsuitable cheers. After finishing wish prayer, Yishu didn't control Lord Grimm to walk directly forward. Like last round, he took the path to the right. This didn't surprise anyone. When starting a match at a disadvantage, especially when the opponent was such a strong player, it made sense to use more tactical thinking. While Troubling Rain continued to charge, Lord Grim circled around to the right, and soon began to head directly toward the center road. When the audience saw this, they realized this was an exact repeat of last round. Once again, Yi Shu wanted to sneak directly behind the opponent and ambush them. As expected, this time, Yi Shu had accurately calculated Troubling Rain's movement speed. When Lord Grim circled to the right and then cut back to the center, his rhythm was completely synced with Troubling Rain's footsteps. Of course, it wasn't so coincidental that he used the same bush as last time, but like before, there were plenty of places for Lord Grim to hide and wait to ambush. Roll, slide, kick, again with these low movement skills. Soon, Lord Grim had made his way right next to the path. However, the audience members could see from the live display screens that Huang Shaoxin's camera view was currently locked onto the exact spot where Lord Grim was hidden. The televised broadcast was a bit slower, but soon enough, they also displayed a split screen featuring Huang Shaoxin's camera view. Ah, Yi Shu's ambush position has been discovered. Pan Lin shouted. Blue Rain has enough understanding of the map now. Plus, Yi Shu is repeating his strategy of last battle, said Li Yibo. Will he directly attack? Pan Lin shouted. As soon as he said this, Troubling Rain halted in his steps. Silence. A sudden silence. Earlier, Troubling Rain's footsteps had been pounding on the ground, and Yi Shu was using that sound to anticipate his movement position. If Lord Grim poked his head up now, he would certainly be seen by Huang Shaoxin. But Huang Shaoxin suddenly had his Troubling Rain to stop. He's found me, Yi Shu immediately realized. Right now, he could pretty much judge where Troubling Rain's final step had taken him. But it was possible Huang Shaoxin was already controlling Troubling Rain to small hop, roll, slow walk, or other such silent movements. If he wasn't accurate in his judgment of position, then if he acted now, he would only lose the initiative. This wasn't what Yi Shu wanted. After Yi Shu instantly and clearly organized his thoughts, his actions were extremely decisive. Slide kick. Lord Grim moved low to the ground, and then rolled twice to the right. Yi Shu was actually controlling Lord Grim to turn and move away. End chapter.
The King's Avatar, Chapter 1397, Blue Rain's God. Audio source, WuxaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1397, Blue Rain's God. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Silence, complete silence. Neither player knew what the other was doing. Even listening carefully, there wasn't a whisper to hint at the other's presence. Only the omniscient audience knew that both of their characters were moving. Lord Grim rolled twice after a slide kick, swiftly leaving his hiding spot for another. As for Huang Shaoxin's Troubling Rain, as Yi Shu expected, he had merely slowed and rolled into a crouch, carefully approaching where Lord Grim had been hiding before. Without any hesitation, sword light flashed, cutting through Lord Grim's previous hiding place. Whoosh! Lord Grim had originally settled next to a meter-high mud wall. Troubling Rain had attacked with a piercing form. This skill had very high priority, and sword light shot into the mud wall, tearing through it like paper and exposing the upper half of the blade on this side. A miss. Huang Shaoxin made a swift judgment. He immediately had Troubling Rain tug his sword out, but Yi Shu's Lord Grim had already flashed out from the other side, sending a laser rifle his way. Lord Grim couldn't get that far with a slide kick, and it barely took a laser rifle a blink to arrive. However, Huang Shaoxin was facing his way, so he could clearly see Lord Grim's actions. No matter what, he couldn't leave his sword behind though, so Troubling Rain fell into a crouch. Boom! Half the laser rifle smacked into the wall, taking off a small chunk, and the other half shot directly over the wall, brushing right over Troubling Rain's head. laser rifle didn't have the same force that piercing form did, and Lord Grim's laser rifle was only rank 1. Being able to take off a small chunk of the wall was good enough. FWIP. Troubling Rain had already yanked out his silver weapon Ice Rain by now and was hiding behind the wall. Slide kick. On Yishu's side, Lord Grim saw Troubling Rain crouch after he released the laser rifle, so he resolutely charged out. However, this was when the audience once again saw an important opportunity on the big screen. On the screen showing Huang Shaoshan's screen, after Ice Rain was pulled out of the wall, his view immediately went towards the small hole that Ice Rain had made. The hole was too small, so it was impossible to see anything clearly, but the moving shadows were clear enough. Apart from Troubling Rain, wasn't the only other thing that can move Yishu's Lord Grim. Lord Grim executed another silent slide kick, but this time, Huang Shaoshan caught the movement through the tiny hole he had made. They were very close. Huang Shaoshan didn't hesitate. Troubling Rain rolled to a stand at once, rolling right off the meter-tall wall. Ice Rain's deep blue sword light stabbed down towards the bottom of the wall, but on this side of the wall, Lord Grim, slide-kicking over, had raised his Myriad Manifestations umbrella. The tip opened up, revealing the dark gun muzzle. As the deep blue sword light came down, light flashed from the muzzle and a bullet shot out. 2 strikes, a little out of sync. For a moment, it was impossible to figure out whose attack had hit first. Blood splashed from Lord Grim's shoulder, while a bullet found its home in Troubling Rain's side as he rolled sideways across the wall. Lord Grim's slide kick had yet to finish, but that was when he suddenly stopped. He was already pressed to the ground, but after that strike, he became even more intimate with the ground. Falling Blossom form. A level 75 knockdown skill. It was an excellent follow-up from Troubling Rain, but at this time, Troubling Rain had already been thrown into the air. Floating Bullet. A level 1 knock-up skill. One was a Blade Master high-level skill, the other was a Spitfire novice skill. In that moment, the two executed a trade. In terms of damage, Falling Blossom's form was far stronger than Floating Bullet, but the final result was that one character was flat on the ground while the other flew into the air. It seemed like neither could do anything to the other in that moment. However, it only looked like that, because Lord Grim wasn't Troubling Rain. He had ranged attacks. Bang! Lord Grim, still on the ground, fired another shot. From this perspective, the strike from Troubling Rain that pinned Lord Grim to the ground had given the latter a perfect angle to shoot from. If his slide kick had continued for another step or two, then it probably wouldn't be nearly as comfortable. Another bullet flew. Troubling Rain hadn't been tossed too high by the Floating Bullet. At this distance, for a ranged attack, it was far too close. At such a distance, the travel speed of their skills didn't even matter anymore, even if the skill Lord Grim was using was the relatively slow stun bullet. Huang Shaoshan adjusted Troubling Rain's position in the air, but in the end, he still failed to dodge this close-ranged attack. His character froze in mid-air, his adjustments futile. 3 booms of cannon fire from down below, too close to dodge, not to mention that he was stunned right now, and 3 anti-tank missiles erupted against Troubling Rain one after the other. Flames and smoke bloomed in the sky, suspending Troubling Rain in mid-air. By now, Lord Grim's knockdown debuff had worn off and a chain of bullets erupted from the Myriad Manifestations umbrella's muzzle. Gatling gun. Yishu attempted to continue juggling Troubling Rain in the air, and with Lord Grim back on his feet, he was free to chain even more attacks after closing in. However, Yishu's opponent was Huang Shaoshan. His character bore the title of Sword Saint, and his strength was recognized as one of the top in Glory. As soon as the stun effect of the stun bullet passed, Troubling Rain moved. Falling light blade. Troubling Rain made himself plummet from the sky, and Yishu hurriedly adjusted Lord Grim's angle, bullets chasing after the Blade Master. Unfortunately, as soon as Troubling Rain readjusted his pose, he immediately switched to a different skill. Guard. Plink. 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 Silver weapon Ice Rain swept down horizontally in front of him, guarding against the hail of bullets. Bullets. It needn't be said what precise mechanics this required. However, Yishu wasn't dead. After several bullets were blocked, he once again readjusted Lord Grim's angle. With a shift in sword light, his attack glanced away from Ice Rain's blade, but Ice Rain was already sweeping out, slicing a circle through the air. Headwind strike. Troubling Rain's body spun like a drill, parallel to the ground, his sword stabbing through the myriad manifestations umbrellas. Bullet rain, straight into Lord Grim. Blood splattered, forming a circle in the air. Lord Grim's Gatling gun stopped. Spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. As expected of Huang Shaoshan. As expected of the Sword Saint. Pan Lin cheered out a care in the world. From a mere wall between the two, to their exchange, in this short period of time, they had unleashed a flurry of changing skills. In the end, Huang Shaoshan's skilled blade work broke through Yishu's close-range bullet rain with a headwind strike. Last round, Lu Hanwen had broken through Yishu's offensive and successfully counterattacked using headwind strike. This time, Huang Shaoshan had managed to overcome his passive stance and take the initiative with a headwind strike as well. Then, Huang Shaoshan displayed his array of Blade Master skills, more precise and experienced than Lu Hanwen. Troubling Rain, still spinning in the air, didn't even bother landing. His bent legs kicked out, pushing off the mud wall behind him. Meteor form. This was the fastest trick in a Blade Master's repertoire, and with the boost Troubling Rain gave himself from kicking off the wall, his body seemed to transform into a shooting star. The deep blue sword light flashed at the front, drawing a blue streak that darted forth. WushOurWorldAudio.com. Then, in the path that the blue light took, a dark red replaced it, blooming and spreading. It was the blood that this strike had drawn from Lord Grim. "That's damn cool," Pan Lin yelled. The bloody line that the blue light had drawn, the scene of it erupting in the air, it was so cool, he was almost crying. Secretly, he promised himself that he would go back and replay this moment in slow motion 100 times after the match. As expected of Huang Shaoshan, Li Yiba could only find this one sentence to express himself and display his shock in that moment. The timing, the use of the environment, the mechanics, all of it, the top of the top. This was Glory's top player. And this match was a battle between two of the very top players of Glory. After Yishu successively took down two of Blue Rain's players, the atmosphere finally peaked again. Though those two matches had Song Xiu's steady defense and Lu Hanwen's never-give-up enthusiasm, Yishu's victory still seemed ever so matter-of-fact. It didn't create the tense atmosphere one expected from a playoffs match at all. Or at least, it seemed that way. Yet now, Yishu versus Huang Shaoshan, Lord Grim versus Troubling Rain, this fast-paced offense, the beautiful and dazzling action. This was a true battle between gods. However, currently, it was Huang Shaoshan who was performing beautifully, who had the advantage. This match was on Happy's grounds, so the atmosphere had its limits. It was Blue Rain's fans on the away team spectator stands that were cheering wildly. Changing Spring, Blue River, Chilling Nightfall, Flying Brushstroke, Bound Boat, etc., etc. These were those responsible for managing Blue Brook Guild. In the last steps of the season, they had come with their team to the battlefield. This was the benefits of the job, but at the same time, they were the ones who were responsible for leading the Blue Rain fans in their cheering. Huang Shao. Blue Rain's fans bellowed under their lead. Changing Spring personally held the flag embroidered with Blue Rain's team logo, waving it swiftly through the air above their heads. Blue River next to him was also very excited. He wasn't very loud, but his class in-game was the Blade Master. This was the class he loved, and Huang Shaoshan was also his favorite player. Right now, Huang Shaoshan's opponent was Yi Xiu, the Lord Grim that had so much interaction with them in-game, that had tormented them until they coughed blood so many times. Blue Brook Guild's members had been eager to see their team's pro players beat the other up for them. In the regular season, Blue Rain had won twice against Happy, which was great, but unfortunately, Yi Xiu hadn't lost a single round against them in the individual competition. Then, in the playoffs, he destroyed two of their players upon coming up. Changing Spring, Blue River and Co. had sat depressed in the stands. Could it be that not even their pro players could do anything about this guy? But now, they caught their god Huang Shaoshan was on the field. Although Blue Rain was 2 players down and Yi Xiu had wiped out 2 people in succession and was at a health disadvantage from the beginning of the 3rd round. Huang Shaoshan's spectacular performance had him vibrating with excitement and pride. See that? That's Blue Rain's god. That's our god. Blue River thought proudly. End chapter.